Hi learners, my name is Mr. Seafelt. Today we are going to be learning to use details and evidence from text to draw inferences. This is important because when reading, what we need to be doing is we need to be actively thinking about what it is we're reading about. We will read the history of money today. So let's begin. The history of money. What makes money valuable? If you think about it, a dollar bill is only a piece of paper. You cannot eat, wear, or live in a dollar bill. So why do people want it? Think about this proverb. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is considered valuable because it is hard to get. Bartering. Imagine you're a goat herder visiting a marketplace in China in 1200 BC. The merchandise being sold around you ranges from cattle to tools. Suppose you need to purchase a piece of rope. How will you pay for it? The goats you own are your sole source of income, so you would not want to trade a goat for the rope. The goat is too valuable. Instead, you might want to trade goat milk for the rope. This system of economics is called bartering. But what if the rope merchant doesn't want goat milk? I'm going to stop here because I think this is important. I'm going to infer what the author is wanting me to think about next. So we talked about bartering, but obviously with bartering we can infer that it's sort of a flawed system, right? Of course you can barter, but you can only barter with what you have. And if the other person you're bartering with doesn't want it, then we can infer that this is a system that doesn't work because then there would be no trading. So, using that information, let's think about what is the next step, right? I'm going to infer with that information. What inferring means is we are going to use what we have, the details and the context clues and the information we've been given, to think about what is the next logical step. While thinking about it, the next logical step would be substituting something for that, using a currency. So let's go to the next section. Early currency. No need to cry over spilt milk. Luckily, you sold some goat milk earlier in the day in exchange for 10 cowrie shells, the first system of currency in China. You hand 2 cowrie shells to the rope merchant and put the rest in your pocket. This is a much easier way to buy and sell things. Cowrie shells are lightweight, durable, and easier to take with you than a goat. The idea of currency is catching on around the world in Thailand, India, and Africa. You decide to save your extra shells until you have enough to invest in another goat. You will be spending cowries with the expectation that another goat will pay off later, since you can drink or sell the milk it produces. Taking this type of business risk makes you an entrepreneur. So using all this information, we had just previously inferred that the next step would be currency. Well, this currency system is using cowrie shells, something that you find. Obviously, there's a lot of them. They're durable, they're reusable, they're lightweight, so they're easy to carry around. And so this is what they're trading with. There's a value that's added to these cowrie shells. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to think about my context clues and the details and evidence that I've been given so far. So we went from bartering to this early currency of using shells. What would be the next logical step that I can infer about? Well, how about something that is substantial, something that is created rather than found? So I'm thinking maybe coins or something along those lines is what the author is leading to next. We went from bartering to using an early currency such as shells, and now we're going to move on into what I believe is coins or bills. Let's take a look. If it'll move over. There we go. Alright. New kinds of currency. Let's read this section. If you were at a marketplace in Rome around 900 BC, you might have used salt as a form of currency. The idiom to be worth one's salt is still used to this day. Another form of currency, metal coins, first emerged in China around 1000 BC. Coins varied in shape, size, and worth. By the 7th century BC, coins made of precious metals such as silver and gold became popular in Europe and the Middle East. These coins were usually round. After being weighed on a scale to determine I have to scroll down a bit. To determine their value, coins were, let me grab my actual book because I can't see the bottom part there. Coins were usually round. After being weighed on a scale to determine their value, coins were stamped with designs that stated their worth. So, as you can see, my inferring took us along a logical path, and it's the path that the author wanted us to go. We went from bartering with items that we had, which was a flawed system because if the person doesn't want it, we can't barter it. And it moved into using something that is found, like shells, to substitute for it. So these shells had value and were traded for goods. And now it's moved on to an actual valued material, such as metals, precious metals like silver and gold, for coins. So there's an obvious logic here, and as you guys may be able to see, the next part is going to be paper money. But I'm going to stop there for today. Today, we used details and evidence from the text to draw inferences. I want to thank you for learning with me today. Bye.